Welcome to another edition of Beyond the Arc After Dark. I'm John Gonzalez alongside our NBA insider, Bill Reiter. I'm TMing that. We're going to copyright that thing the whole bit.
I like, After Dark. All right, so does that mean that occasionally we'll get real edgy and a little weird?
Why
Sometimes?
not? Yeah, we could try that out tonight. BTA, AD, all the acronyms. Just wrapping up after Cavs Rockets, which turned into a really fun game, Bill. Number 1 in the East versus number 2 in the West. It looked like it was going to be the Rockets going away. They were up 11 going to the fourth quarter. Then all of a sudden they couldn't make a shot. Then it looked like they were going to win the game until at the end of the game, Tari Eason fouled Darius Garland with 2.8 seconds left. Came into his shooting radius when he was launching a 3 and they're up 2 and you're like, oh no, Tari, what are you doing? On top of that, it was deemed reckless. It was a flagrant foul. The Rockets broadcast, Bill, lost their minds. They said, this is literally the worst case scenario.
I saw it.
So
I was watching that version too.
Okay, well, This is it. The Cavs are going to win this game. They're going to steal one on the road. They are the best shooting team in the NBA. And Darius Garland, 7th in the NBA, Bill, in free throw shooting, 90% free throw shooter, who ends up missing 5 free throws tonight, and the Rockets hold on to win a game that they almost gave away. Ended up being very entertaining, but man, Tari Eason is living right.
Compelling, but shockingly ugly, and I don't know that I'm supposed to draw bold or any sweeping conclusions with broad strokes from a single NBA game, but here's what I was thinking throughout the game. I was like, oh, we're going to find out which of these two teams are sort of made for primetime, even though it's not a nationally televised game. These are two. It's the best team in the East. It's the second best team in the West. They both aspire to overachieve, I think, compared to what we all thought they were going to do. And the answer is none of them are ready for primetime. Because not just what you mentioned, Jared Allen had the terrible foul on your guy Şengün, and then then you turn around and Easton has that foul, and then Garland misses those shots. It was these are both really good teams, John, and there's probably more to react to than just one overreaction. But both of them tried really hard to hot potato the game away to the other at the end. Nobody wanted this thing.
I had a little bit of a different takeaway on this. My takeaway was, despite the fact that the Rockets won this game, I'm just bringing up the box score here. Despite the fact that the Rockets won this game, and you know about my affection for the Rockets, they're desperately in need of a closer. The Cavs tonight were missing some key pieces as well. No Mobley, no Coro, no LeVert.
It's fair.
And also on top of that, Darius Garland, who's normally Mr. Reliable at the free throw line, just had like a really abnormal, without looking at his stats, his game logs, I'm going to say that has to be his worst night from the line.
He's the 10th best free throw shooter in the NBA. What was he, 2 for 7 in the end, I think?
2 for 7,
including the 2 that he missed. Yeah, it was a weird ending. It was a weird game.
I think the Cavs are ready for prime time. It just was like a weird ending for them. Yeah, I do. I believe in the Cavs. I'm a believer in this team. It was only their 7th loss of the entire season and only their 5th loss on the road. They're still number 1 in clutch games this season. That makes them 15-3. They're number 1 by a considerable margin. Normally they win these games. I'm surprised that they would. There's all of a sudden like a bug here that I'm batting at. You said weird,
or you got real emotional.
You wanted to get
in the air.
I'm having hallucinations, I think. I thought from the Cavs perspective, that's normally a game that they would win. From the Rockets perspective, they got lucky.
Yeah, they got really lucky. I'm going to add one more thing, too, and this is, again, small sample size, but I didn't love and I know that Garland hit a pretty nice step-back 3 where they sort of nobody guarded him, but there was a lot of hero ball down in the final 3 or 4 minutes from Cleveland, too, where they didn't move the ball. Garland took a couple shots, hit one, and I don't even mean the last sequence. And Donovan Mitchell, I think, came up with the ball at one point. So they weren't moving the ball very much. I thought, you're right, you and I have different conclusions. It may not apply to other games, but I thought neither team deserved to win this game. I mean, somebody's going to, obviously. It felt like a game that should have gone to overtime. And while Houston has much deeper problems because they are younger, they are ahead of schedule. We have talked about the fact they're not expected to be, I think, real contenders this year. But if they are, that's great. That's gravy. That's beautiful. I think this season, at a minimum, showcases what they're going to be in a year and beyond that. Cleveland does have expectations. It was just I know what their record is, and obviously a few weeks ago they beat the Thunder when they had them at home and then did when they were on the road. The way they played that at the end of the game was jittery, despite the guys they were missing. I don't love it if I'm Cleveland and I'm projecting to play in Boston at some point in the playoffs, presumably conference finals. And Boston, I think, is going to be very, very formidable, whatever their shooting struggles have been.
It was jittery, but I also think like they had a bad shooting night at times, right? So you had Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell only shot 33% from the floor tonight. Garland was 10 for 21, which is fine, but he missed those free throws. Normally, I think because they're such a reliable shooting team, they're going to win those games more often than not. And again, they are still the best clutch team in the NBA. So it's like, all right, you lost a game that you could have stolen there. It shouldn't have even been that close. The Rockets were up 11 going into the fourth quarter, Bill. And it's like, this is why I keep coming back to for the Rockets to take that next step, because I am a believer in their defense. I am a believer in this team's offense. What they were coming into this game top 10 in both defense and offense, despite the fact that, as we've said, they can't shoot. They just need a closer. They're desperate for closer. There was multiple times tonight in that fourth quarter, Bill, where the Cavs had gone on between the third quarter and the fourth quarter, a 19-0 run, and the Rockets could not throw the ball in the ocean. And the Houston Rockets broadcast was like apoplectic, just completely beside themselves about where's the offense going to come from. And that's the thing that's been true for this team all season long, where everybody kind of looks around at each other when you really need a bucket. And this was a good night for Fred VanVleet. This was a good night for Alperen Şengün. And Amin Thompson is everywhere all the time. But
Amin Thompson's amazing. Yeah.
But this is what I'm saying. They need a closer.
Yeah, they also need to not turn the ball over so much. I'm trying to pull the stats up, but my secondary computer's not working. So if you have it, great.
What
they
turn
the ball over. Just how many turnovers the Rockets had? I mean, I know they dominated points in the paint. And that's going to happen, particularly when Mobley's not available for Cleveland. But it felt how many do they have? 18, 19?
2.
Okay,
They threw the ball all over the gym in the fourth quarter.
I mean, it's because you can make a case for whatever you want in this game, because there were stretches where it's like, oh, the Rockets should win, and now the Cleveland should win. And even in the last 20 seconds, in the last 4.5 seconds, it was both teams. I mean, it was a really fun game. I'll say this, and I think we have a different interpretation. The Rockets have work to do, and you're right. Shooting, veteran leadership, a leader at the end who can sort of get through those buckets. Those things overlap on the Venn diagram required. Maybe Cleveland's complete. Maybe they have what they need. I'd love to see Donovan Mitchell. They've got two guys that should be able to hit those shots and sort of lean into those moments, in Garland and Donovan Mitchell. Garland missed those free throws. It happens. It's one game. But this is not the first time Donovan Mitchell hasn't been amazing in big games. Hasn't been amazing in those Thunder games. Wasn't awesome in this game. Missed a big shot. Not the last one, but I think there was a shot he took with a minute left or whatever it was. I'm being picky, but I'm being picky for a team that's on that could win in the neighborhood of 68, 69, 70 games.
Fair enough that you're right, because he didn't shoot the ball well in either of the Thunder games, and then he didn't shoot the ball well tonight. The one side of the coin is, hey, those are big games. You got to show up. The other side of the coin is that's the number 1 and number 3 defenses that you're facing, and they have ridiculous defenders that they can throw you. Again, my guy, Amin Thompson, is – when you're done with Amin Thompson, now all of a sudden here comes Tari Eason, despite the fact that he made a bonehead play at the end of the game. He's really good and long. You got Cam Whitmore. There's a lot of different looks that they can throw at you. I give him a little bit of leeway, although he is a star, right? He has to show up in those games.
I don't know if I do. By the way, you've been talking about this, and I know it's true, but to see the Rockets defense is legit. And whatever their issues with shooting and offensive creation and creating space and getting buckets at the end of the game, their defense the whole way through is amazing. So, yes, they're athletic. They're fun. Ime Udoka has them playing remarkable defense. The effort's there. And they're the second, third best in the game. The Thunder are the best. The problem becomes, if you're Cleveland, you're right, it's not hard, but the goal is no offense, you're not the Sixers, right, this year. It's not like let's make a run and make the playoffs. You're not the Warriors or the Lakers. Like, if you make the second round, it's secretly wink, wink, a success. Cleveland's minimum, I think, threshold is a competitive Eastern Conference Finals for a successful season. And that's probably debatable in Cleveland. If you can't be successful against the best defenses, you're going to struggle, because Boston's got a pretty good defense. They do. They're gonna be pretty good. They do have
a pretty good defense, and they're battle tested in the playoffs, and the rotations are going to tighten up. And that's a good point. I have a question for you about the Cavs in just a second. I want to welcome everybody who's watching us live on YouTube tonight, following the conclusion of a really entertaining Cavs Rockets game that the Cavs could have stolen, but shouldn't have been in the fourth quarter anyway, and the Rockets end up winning it. But if you're watching us on YouTube live right now, make sure that you like, subscribe, leave a comment, and also hit that little bell symbol, and you'll get notified when we go live. We're going to start doing some more of these games as the season. We're in the midway point of the season. As we get closer to the playoffs, we're certainly going to start doing more live post-game shows during the week. Normally we're live during the day. We'll pick out some more games to do at night. My question for you, because you're right about what you're saying with the Cavs, my question is, where do they add, right? Because they've got 4 starters that you're really happy with, 3 of whom I think are pretty solid all-stars. You could make a case for Jared Allen. And then on top of that, Bill, in terms of bench scoring, they've got the third or bench net rating. They got the third best bench in the NBA. They're pretty deep.
Right.
I guess you could upgrade like in terms of your 6-man or something, but like I don't think that they're in the market for anything big.
No, I mean, this circles back to, I mean, the upgrade was the extension of Donovan Mitchell from when that was a question a year ago. And so it's Darius Garland has obviously gone to the answer to your question is they don't need to upgrade to win an NBA championship or to be what they need to be. They need those guys to perform it. I know you and I sort of see this differently. I think sometimes it's a big game. You've got two superstars. You've got I'm sure a future Hall of Famer in Donovan Mitchell and an all-star this year in Darius Garland. And one of those guys have to just be able to push over the line, especially when Houston is giving away opportunities. I mean, the fact you got 3 free throws and the ball, 22 turnovers, 3 free throws at the end of the game on the flagrant, and you get the ball back. I mean, score.
It's right there. It's right there for you.
Yeah.
You know what? I think that is the upgrade. I think the upgrade is make your free throws and hey, Donovan Mitchell, play well in big games. If you're going to get that kind of money, and you're going to be the guy that is leading the best team in the NBA all season long, then you kind of have to be matchup proof, and he hasn't been so far. So I think that's a fair criticism by you. We're going to take a quick break, and then on the other side, I'm going to sing the praises of the Houston Rockets. I'm going to sing the praises of my guy, Amon Thompson. I'm going to ask Bill what he thinks the ceiling is for this team. We'll do that next. This is Beyond the Arc.
The clock never stops. Relive the greatest moments with uninterrupted highlights and more.
It's Gareth Bale. Wonderful goal.
On the UEFA Champions League channel. Streaming free.
All right, welcome back to Beyond the Arc After Dark. If you're watching us on YouTube, awesome. Thank you. If not, just a reminder, you can also find us wherever you get your favorite podcast. Please download, subscribe, leave a review, and then in Spotify, if you look below the play button on the Spotify app in full screen mode, you can leave us a comment or a question about the show. All right, Bill, the Houston Rockets here, I think, again, that they need a closer, but they have slowly crept into the top. They still can't shoot, although they've been much better shooting the ball. They were better shooting the ball tonight. Will they shoot the ball tonight? They've been much better shooting the ball over the last 15 games. And then tonight,
44% from the field, 44% from three.
Bill.
What a weird game.
But what have I said to you about this team? Like, watch out if they can somehow figure out how to shoot. Look, for the season, 24th in field goal percentage, 28th in three-point percentage. But over their last 16 games, Bill, they've climbed, or over their last 15 games, they've climbed to 16th in three-point percentage. And then, as you mentioned tonight, 44% from three. If they can figure out how to shoot, number one, they'd be an infinitely better team, duh. But if they add a shooter or a closer, that would also be super helpful. Let's just say that they're kind of what they are shooting the ball. What's their ceiling, do you think, for them this season? You have a question here from Isaiah. Can they win, or do they have a chance at winning the chip? I think not as currently constituted, unless all of a sudden their shots start going in.
I have an answer that's a paradox. That's like mutually exclusive. The answer is no, but the answer if somebody has to, if it's not the Thunder. So it's right.
Somebody has to play them in the Western Conference Finals.
If the Thunder, knock on wood, if the Thunder have an injury, and we've seen this in the past that derails them, or they're just underwhelming and they lose to a team that they shouldn't, and it's not Oklahoma City, I'm taking Denver. I'm not taking the Rockets, but they're basically top 10 in offensive and defense. They're really close. They're clearly there defensively, and they sort of flirt with that offensively, and that's a metric for a championship level, Isaiah. And I think I'm with you, John. They're too young. Like, who's the closer? If someone on the roster steps up the way that I want Donovan Mitchell to for Cleveland, is it Van Vliet? I think that's the answer.
Or most nights when they're looking for offense late in games, it's Van Vliet or Jalen Green when he's hot, or Alperen Şengün, who.
But Green's got streaky, right? That's where he's at.
Alperen Şengün is not exactly instant offense, and Fred Van Vliet and Jalen Green are really streaky, right? I mean, like when they're on, it's great, and when they're off, it's pretty brutal.
Yep.
When we're talking about championship odds here, Bill, despite the fact that the Celtics are not the best team in the NBA, or the second best team, or the third best team by record, the Celtics have the best odds at plus 220. Thunder at plus 250, I guess, because you got to come out of the Western Conference. Cavs, still the best team in the NBA by record, plus 750. Your Nuggets now come in at fourth at plus 1,300, tied with the Knicks. You got to go past the Mavs, the Bucks, and the Grizz, who all have better odds than the Rockets at plus 5,000. That kind of surprised me a little bit.
I think the Rockets are a little behind, not a lot, a little behind where the Thunder were last year. And the Thunder last year were really good also in the regular season and were underwhelming in the playoffs, right? They ran into a team they weren't able to get past, maybe their experience a little bit. So I just think it's too soon. Howard Beck always espouses this, who's an excellent guy that you and I know who covers the sport too. And he sort of sold me on this, that for most teams, barring having LeBron or a Durant or maybe a Wemby someday, and the Rockets don't have that, you have to sort of work. It's a ladder, and you have to work your way up to varying degrees. And I think that's real. The ladder last year for the Rockets was they made a run, and no one saw them coming. They almost made the play-in and didn't, but it kind of came down to the wire. They were garbage is strong, but they weren't really a factor, and Şengün got hurt. They were right. And then this year, it's right. Can I swear? Because it's after dark. I'm going to do it. Am I allowed to swear?
I don't know.
I'm going. It's holy shit. It's holy shit. They're the second best team maybe in the West. And then I think part of that process this year for me is they're probably going to lose like in a second round or depending on matchups to first round because you do have to learn. And then next year, I think, is when you really start to see them, like the Thunder this year, be capable of greatness, and we'll see whether they pull it off. It's a process, and I think they're too early in that process.
It's a process. I get it. And they are ahead of the curve, right? I mean, they've taken such a massive leap year over year from where they were last year. I understand why the Celtics, the Thunder, and the Cavs are ahead of them. I understand why the Nuggets, who are playing really well right now, who have the best player in the world, whether or not he wins another MVP or not, are ahead of them. I'm a little surprised that, say, the Mavericks still have better odds when Luka has been injured. They just lost Eric Lively probably for the season. Kyrie has been injury prone and has missed some games. I'm a little surprised that the Bucks, who have been playing better, are ahead of them. Although they have Giannis fine. The Grizz you could make a case for, but the odds are significantly better. Like the Bucks are like half as long odds. They're plus 2,400. The Rockets are plus 5,000. I'm just surprised by how long the odds are. Question here from Abby Jackson on YouTube, Bill, I think is interesting. I'm going to tweak it a little bit. No, it is a should. Okay, so she's wondering, do you
I like the question.
Should make a trade before the trade deadline to upgrade the roster? I'm of two minds here. On the one hand, I keep advocating for them to find a closer. They could obviously use a shooter, right? On the other hand, like they are ahead of schedule. Do you want to mess with chemistry on a team that's really good? And you're probably not winning anything this year, even if you do upgrade on the margins.
All right, so I'm going to do it barring Kevin Durant, who's not going to be available. Okay, I'm going to put that aside. Barring Kevin Durant, the answer is absolutely not. And I'm going to go back to the Thunder comparison again, because you and I had these conversations last year a lot. Should the Thunder have upgraded? The Thunder have even more assets and picks than the Rockets because Sam Presti has collected them. He's a collector. And they didn't make any moves at the trade deadline of any significance. And they, in free agency, they kind of won the day with Caruso and with Hartenstein. And they allowed that team to continue to grow. I think the Rockets are so good and their future is so bright. I'm not messing with it, John. I'm not unspooling any of my talent. I want these guys to grow together for another year. You're going to have to make decisions eventually as you draft more people, but the answer is no. No, let this continue to incubate, barring a Kevin Durant miracle move, because this team is capable of winning championships down the future, and I'm not sabotaging that because we're ahead of schedule and I get carried away in 2025 if I'm used to it.
Okay, I'm generally of the same mindset. However, we're doing a show. I'm going to play a little devil's advocate for you.
Do it. Play it. All right, hit me.
What about, because again, closer, offense, some more consistency.
Don't say Jimmy Butler.
No, not Jimmy Butler.
Okay, I was a close laptop.
What? And I'd have to look at the salary matching purposes here. So I'm just sort of spitballing here. But Zach LaVine is having a really incredible season, surprisingly so. Would he? I'm just asking here. Would he be an upgrade if it's hey, you're absorbing his contract because Chicago's trying to get off of it anyway, and you're swapping him out for like a Fred VanVleet who has been inconsistent, and maybe you throw in like a Cam Whitmore or a Tari Eason type. I probably wouldn't want to do Tari, Cam, maybe.
It's a really good question, and it's something that if you're the front office, I think you ponder for longer than the 3 seconds I'm going to ponder before I give my definitive answer, because we're a podcast and not a front office. But my answer is no. Some of it, LaVine's been awesome this year, but what have we ever seen from him that makes you believe he's going to come in and lead a team a series or deeper in an NBA playoff scenario? The answer is absolutely nothing. I mean, fitting that role and being that guy are different things. Donovan Mitchell fits that role, and he hasn't been that guy, at least for Cleveland, over the course of his time there. So the answer is no. I mean, Levine, like for me, it's Durant.
That's just top
It's
of my head.
it's Steph who's not getting traded. Brad Bakken tried to trade him, our colleague.
Did he?
It's LeBron.
Fantastic.
Yeah, on the podcast last week we had like an hour argument. Like they're not trading Steph. It's LeBron. He's not leaving LA. There's nobody that it has to be a player that makes him an automatic contender, and that makes it worthwhile to sort of break up what they're doing and rush the process. And for me, that's not Levine.
We got a comment here from Isaiah who wants them to go after Booker. I think that's the long-term play, Isaiah, that there's a reason why they went and gave the Nets control of their draft again in exchange for control of the Suns draft, because they're betting, just like Utah was betting when Utah made the trade with the Suns, gave them 3 marginal first-round picks for that 2031 Suns pick in the future, that the Suns thing is going to collapse eventually, and eventually you're going to want long-term Suns picks, and that maybe Booker will either become available or will ask out, but it's not going to be right now. For the Rockets, I think you're right, Bill, except my question is, all right, let's look at this roster. I think Alperen Şengün is the best player on this team, right? Do we agree on that? He's the best player?
Right now, I mean...
Right now,
my
question
today
for you after this is, who's the second best player on this team?
Amen Thompson or Jalen Green, but not today. Are we talking today, or because projecting forward today?
Projecting forward, I think Amen Thompson is pretty clearly not just the second best player, but potentially the best player.
The best player.
But right now, if you're hoping to again, play with house money, maybe win a round or two, potentially, upside. If you made the conference finals, that would be amazing. Like to look around your roster, it's great to be like, we have a bunch of really good guys on any given night. We're super deep. You get into the playoffs, as you always note, the rotations get tighter, and you look around and you're like, who's leading this thing?
And that's why they're not ready.
Yeah, they're not ready.
That's why going and getting, is it Isaiah? Booker's amazing. Not just the thing about a Booker trade, which is not happening this year, as I understand it, and I don't think anyone thinks it is that helps the moment. That also helps Booker's young. He is not a 35-year-old great who's still capable, but is near the end of his career, right? He's mid-career. He's a youngish dude. Outside of there's no plausible trade they can do this year that makes them so much better that you risk it. And again, I'm going to repeat myself. Follow the Sam Presti model. Presti followed this last year, and now they have the second best odds, the Thunder, to be NBA. Stick to your guns. Yeah, bring people in free agency when you're not as pressed. You have to give things up.
You have a plan. It's really working out. Let this thing develop a little bit. Let them mature. Let them grow together, and then make your big swing when you're a little bit closer. I think that's the smart play.
And I'll say this too. Durant's not realistic, and the other names I'm going to bring up aren't realistic. But let the season play out as well. And if the Suns are a just dumpster fire, maybe Durant tries to force his way out in the summer. I don't think this is going to happen, but if the Bucks fall apart, there was certainly talk about Giannis maybe over the summer. There were some people who thought Giannis would have been the move.
That would be nice.
If we were in the other the alternate universe,
that would solve their shooting problems. Famously great from distance.
Yeah, what a shooter! What is so? But there might be wait to the summer, because sometimes there are guys available in the summertime who are just ready for a change because they've given up the ghost on their team. There might be a few of those in the summer.
I wanted to run 2 more things past you. One, we're about to find out the All-Star starters on Thursday night. We'll talk about it on Friday's show when we're on network. By the way, come and join us on CBS Sports Network on Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern for a show about that. And we're going to do Western Conference midseason grades as well. But we're about to find out the All-Stars. And the Cavs are going to have, I think, 3, possibly 4, but probably 3. I think Mitchell and Garland and Mobley are going to get in. The Rockets might not get one. Alperen Şengün is your guy, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know that he's going to make the cut, Bill, which is kind of amazing.
How many Thunder were All-Stars last year? How many members of the Thunder? I don't remember.
SGA. I think that's it.
Yeah.
Right?
Was that it?
Yeah.
Was it just one?
Yeah.
So, again, the Thunder light. You're right. I don't think the Rockets.
Light.
Şengün's not getting in, is he?
I don't think so either.
I don't think he is.
I don't think so either.
Zero.
The Rockets, maybe just cool your jets a little bit. All right, last thing for you, Bill. I like watching the Rockets. Producer Aaron keeps telling me that the Rockets worldwide have the 5th biggest fan base, right? Why does nobody go? the building is there's always these empty seats. I put this question out on Blue Sky, and I got a bunch of responses from Rockets fans, and they said that apparently the lower bowl ends up being like corporate seats that are sold out to like organizations, and then people just don't show up. But they're 19th in attendance with a team that should be packing the building with a raucous crowd every night. Not only is the building like pretty noticeably empty on a lot of nights, but the energy is pretty low. It's not like the vibes aren't good. I don't understand how the community hasn't just like flocked to this team.
By the way, that reminds me of that Heat team that I covered, because they would get a lot of flack for people not showing up.
Yeah.
But the bars on South Beach, I once went to do a story. I had one day off when I covered that team over 2 years. I went to do a story and go to a bar, and I couldn't get a seat. Thought I'd just go into a bar and interview fans. Couldn't get in because everybody reserved their seats there. And to your point, the lower bowl was always lame. In Miami, it was a bunch of rich people who didn't show up for the games. I don't know. I'd love to know, because I haven't been to Houston in years other than going in and out of a game. I haven't like hung out there. Is there a traffic thing like in LA? Where is it? Because it's pretty spread out. Is it hard to get there?
Every game night, always. Like it's confusing to me. And then somebody else had posited, well, it's Texas, and Texas isn't as into basketball as it is into football. I'm sorry, Spurs and Mavs fans.
No, yeah. I was going to say, like, those are great venues.
Those are great fan bases. So
you'd be hard pressed to pick which one is better. They're both. Yeah. That logic. The Texas logic doesn't hold.
It does not hold. Those teams are very well supported. And then again, to Aaron's point about the Rockets being globally supported, I don't know. I would just like to see, that I'm an evangelist for the Houston Rockets in general, and Amin Thompson in specific.
You love those teams that play defense and can't shoot. If you play defense and you can't shoot, there's a special place. That's gonna be you and John's heart, because the Magic. Yeah.
You watch this game tonight. You've watched a bunch of Rockets games. You can see why I like Amin Thompson, right?
I'm giving you a hard time. The Magic are hard to watch, even when they're winning. The Rockets are, and we've had this talk, are exhilarating to watch. They're athletic, they're fun, they jump out of the gym. Yeah, by the way, they don't shoot well, but they still manage to they dominate points in the paint. They find ways to score. I mean, they still generate offense, just not in a very 2025 kind of way.
When Jabari Smith comes back, I've asked this question before, but we might as well ask it now because we're talking about Amin Thompson. When Jabari Smith comes back, he had been a starter. Producer Aaron's a little bit more down on him than I am. I think he's a very useful player, and he gives supreme effort defensively. What do they do with Amin Thompson? Because they've been so good with him in the starting lineup. I don't know how you send him back to the bench, which means it's going to be Dillon Brooks or Jabari Smith probably. And for me, it would be Dillon Brooks, but maybe it's Jabari. I don't know. What do you do here?
I think Jabari sits and earns his way back, right? I think that's and he hasn't been awesome. So maybe there's a little less pressure.
He's streaky too.
That's true. But he's like one of your, along with Grant Veatley, he's one of your veterans who sort of have been around the block a little bit. And although he's a knucklehead half the time, so I'm not even sure I believe that.
My thing that is value. For both okay, look, Amin Thompson, one of the many players on the Houston Rockets who can't shoot. But as you noted, I have a soft spot in my heart for players.
You love that guy.
He is so dynamic. He can play in so many different ways. He's really great with the ball. He's awesome in transition. He's an otherworldly rebounder for his size. His springiness is crazy. He had a career high, tied his career high for rebounds tonight. He's a really good passer, and he's just so athletic. I think he impacts the game in so many different ways. It would be great if he could figure out how to shoot the ball, because then it would take him to a whole nother stratosphere. But even absent him being able to shoot the ball, Bill, I just don't know how Ime puts him back on the bench. I don't.
He's also, you said this earlier, he is clearly projected to be probably the best player on this team in a few years. And that means you feed him minutes. I mean, there's a benefit now for him to get the minutes, and more importantly, and I think they know this in Houston, they understand their window's not now. They're never going to say that, but so you're also sort of creating what you need for a year or two or three from now, and he needs minutes to get where he needs to go quickly.
Well, not only that, but I think in other scenarios on other teams, if you had a player like him and you were trying to win, but you weren't winning with him, you'd go, okay, we got to pump the brakes on this. Like maybe it's not time to do it now. Right? Kuminga's a good example, right? Where they were trying to do the 2 timeline thing and it wasn't working. And
Kuminga not playing it.
Houston is winning with this kid. So you have the benefit of being like, oh, we can give him minutes. And by the way, it's also good for us.
I know the Rockets or the Warriors were in a different situation than the Rockets are now. The Warriors were expected to win championships when Kuminga was breaking into the league, and the Rockets aren't. But even if they weren't winning, I would look to Kuminga as an example of why to play this guy. Because not playing Kuminga enough hurt his confidence, hurt his development. I mean, part of the Warriors' problem today is that they did this parallel track thing and then shut down one of the tracks. Well, now the track doesn't work. So, like,
they got off the track.
That's track shutdown.
They shut down that track. Well, that's why I'm saying it's a luxury that the Houston Rockets have, that they can simultaneously be ahead of schedule, win games, plan for the future, and feed minutes to a guy like Amin Thompson. Thank you for coming to my Amin Thompson and Houston Rockets TED Talk. I think that's probably going to do it for us today. I'm going to be back tomorrow at noon Eastern, live on YouTube. As always, you can find us on YouTube at Beyond the Arc CBS. Sam Quinn is going to join me. We're going to do Eastern Conference midseason report cards. And then, as I mentioned, Bill will be back with me on Friday on the network at 2 p.m. Eastern. So join us on CBS Sports Network for the Western Conference midseason report cards. But for now, for our NBA insider, Bill Reiter, I'm John Gonzalez. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow, gang.